I have dedicated my professional career to the study and control of arthropods.
Okay, this is day two of my talking about Native American issues and things as I see them. Um, I had talked in video three about the new form of native racism, racism against natives, which is this patronizing, this viewpoint that they have these weaknesses that require dominant culture to carry them through for their own good. And I don't think people recognize how damaging these policies are. They are just another form of the boarding school policy. They really are not any. They're this it's a policy of assimilation, but it's a policy of assimilation where you're assimilating a people with supposed good intent, but you're assimilating them down here. In other words, here's culture. You're saying we're assimilating you into our culture, the very, very bottom of our culture, but that's where where you're going to remain. And that may, that's okay. I'm going to say this. Okay, this is something that I think needs to be said. And this is about prejudice in general. Okay, prejudice is not as simple a concept as it's often painted to be. Prejudice is complicated. Fighting prejudice is complicated. It cannot simply be. It's not as. I don't know if that makes sense or not. It's very, very. And some of the comments I got and some of the things I understand that. I mean, I see those viewpoints. People talk about, well, what about this? What about that? Well, people that were natives that hate white people. What about that? And I say, yeah, absolutely. And you see the same with any minority. Any group of people, you'll see this. There's this backlash, and I'm going to talk about it in the last part of this video series. I don't know if it's going to be 5 or 6. The last one, I'm going to talk about what we can do as individuals, or what I think we can do. I mean, maybe there's other things. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of other things that people can do as well. But anyway, I'm talking about this patronizing, this complexity, because what it really expresses itself in modern times, and I don't know about the lower 48, I can speak for Alaska now, being an educator in this state, is that it puts, it's what they call, okay, here they talk about it, it's called the village crisis. And this has to do with the fact that, the villages people are leaving the villages like crazy. Native people are moving out of their traditional villages, moving to cities, towns, even leaving the state altogether. Sometimes for jobs, sometimes to be with other family members that have left, sometimes to go to college or go on to other careers that don't involve the villages. And this is looked at as a crisis, and I understand the source of why people are upset. I understand, the many elders are very upset by this. Essentially the children are leaving and nobody's around to learn their traditions. Nobody's around to sort of take up the mantle. And I completely empathize with how, that level of that tragedy. And I believe from what I've seen, it's probably a worldwide phenomena. And it's one aspect of the new global society that we've become. And so it's only going to get worse. But the other side of that coin, and one that where I've personally seen it in my professional career, is that the response to that, which I think there should be, if you think it's an issue, then respond to that issue. But it's a matter of how you respond to the issue. And the response has been not to look at the conditions and motivations behind this exodus, this diaspora, but to look at what can we do to change that situation through positive cultural means. What I'm basically stating is create a reason for people to stay in the villages. If you really want people to stay, create reasons why they should. That means building. It means money. What it means is putting money into these communities in such a way that it can be, to keep them. But barring that, the response is what the response has been is to we need to keep them in these villages at all costs. We're not going to do anything to improve their lot in life in these villages, but we need to do whatever we can to keep them in those villages. Um, and I can't tell you how offended I found that statement. Um, I mean, we got okay. To get okay again. I told you I worked with Native high school students, and my goal is to teach science courses, talk to them about science courses, and spark an interest. See if if that's something they're interested in pursuing, and then if they are, helping giving them using my position to show them where what options they have in life and what they can do and where what these kinds of things essentially as a advisor. And I was told from above by our native expert, again that patronizing old fart, to avoid trying to basic. Okay, how do I put this? He made it clear that the goal of our institution was not to was to better and help the lives of these native people by making sure that they get the skills they need to make a living in a real world, not some fantasy that they want, some dream they have, which I can't. Just I mean, I've never been so close to wanting to run somebody over with my car. I mean, I hated this man. He's saying basically, he said, so just here's what you need. He was teaching us. He actually had us, in little meetings where he would teach us how to effectively deal with native kids. And his response was like, you say you need to get a native kid who says that they want to be an aeronautics engineer or something like that. That's their dream. He said, this is what you need to do. You need to sit them down. You need to get a list of jobs from, say, they're from Sandpoint, Alaska, and go, let's see, rocket engineers in Sandpoint. Oh, gee, nothing opening. But look, here's a teaching job. And it's essentially saying we need to make sure that these kids get education based upon where they're from and what they can achieve where they're from, and no higher than that. He said there's no reason for them to be, you want to discourage them from taking calculus, for example, because they're not going to ever use calculus in their lives. They said just because once in a great while someone is a success story and goes on to great things, that's a 1,000,000 to 1 chance. We need to look at the majority that are going to fail out of school and go back to their village with their tail between their legs and have to take whatever job they can get, and we need to make sure that they're skilled to take that job. I was told to encourage them to work for maintenance so they can learn construction work. These kinds of things, and it just, I can't even tell you the rage that anyway, the point of it is that I am not, I understand that it's sad that the villages are losing people, but at the same time, I also believe the rights of the individual, and I have native students that are gifted in science, they just have an aptitude for science and math, like any student of mine, any student of whatever race or religion or whatever, any group, any student of mine that has an aptitude for something. I'm going to try to make those connections for them. I'm going to try to say, you know what, let me talk to whatever it happens to be. I know people that know people. We'll see what we can do about maybe getting you here, getting you there, or remaining here, whatever it is, whatever is the best option as I see it as an advisor. Not going to tell them, you know what, aim really, really low. And anyway, that's something that's really, it was a huge issue for me. And unfortunately, I get people, and if you talk to them, you will never get them to admit that they're always going to say that their intentions are the best. And maybe at some level they think that they are. But again, they're looking at native people as if they're some kind of other species, not part of our species. Anyway, so I'm gonna finish this up here. So I hope this makes sense, and I'll talk to you later.